Ajay Dua as well, former Commerce Secretary and senior economist, into this conversation as well. Dr. Dua, is this just posturing? And you concur with Sumit Peer that if Donald Trump continues his tirade, if he continues his attack on the way the world has functioned and the way the Americans have come out on top because of the same system that he's trying to change, it is probably the beginning of a long road to recovery for the American economy.
Thank you, Vineet. I'm not sure whether I'm competent enough to talk about the United States or the internal affairs of the United States, who sacks whom, or what will be the consequences of that. But at a macroeconomic level, I'm certainly sanguine that the system will come up with checks and balances to President Trump. The American economy politics is mature enough. They are not going to be allow the state of affairs in which the United States is currently heading to last for too long. Whether it is one Powell or several more appear on the horizon is possible. It is the politics of what appears today impossible to achieve. That can also be kind of turned upside down. So economically or economic-wise, certainly short-term pinches Trump is not facing in the American economy. That's why Mr. Powell, the chairman, did not tinker with the rates. But as the tariffs come into effect, things become costlier for the US customers, because it's the US importer going to be paying for the tariffs, not the exporters. Exporters might feel a shrinking down of their volumes, but in terms of what the customer, whatever gets into the US, it's paid for by the US customer. That could certainly, and that's beginning to have some effect on the inflation in the country. And that's why people do feel that next time the Fed may not be able to stand so resolutely on economic matters to say that we will not change the Fed rate. Having said that, I happened to have an occasion to listen to the Prime Minister last evening when he was addressing the Global Leaders Conference, a forum which was organized by a newspaper here last evening. And the Prime Minister spelt out so eloquently, without saying a word about the US, criticizing it or anything, what India is going to be doing. And he talked about how the second generation reforms, which have been set into motion with the GST taking the foremost lead. And on that, I'm totally in agreement with what the Prime Minister said. Yes, there will be a loss of income in the revenue in the short run for the states and maybe for the center also. If you bring down the rates, bring down the number of slabs from 4 to 2, but it will also spur the Indian economy. The moment the size of the world country GDP increases, all these 45,000 crores or 50,000 crores, as are being estimated by analysts, would get recovered within the same year. And the positive effect of it is the higher consumption, which it would result in the domestic economy. And that links up to any shrinkage in exports in the short run, which we might feel when 50% tariffs or 25% tariffs, which are already set in, and if they get hiked to 50% later in the month, that is the way, I think, to go forward. Concentrate on the economy in any case. Let's be very clear, and my co-panelists will agree with me, that India is driven by domestic consumption, not by exports or imports. Our total merchandise exports are only under $450 billion. Add to it services, it comes to 825 billion. And GDP is about 3.8 trillion, knocking on becoming $4 trillion. So more than 80% or 82% of we are driven by the domestic consumption, and the government in its second generation reforms, about which Prime Minister talked about how space, yesterday happened to be the space day and it was probably up in his mind. He elaborately talked about what is being going to be done about space, and the emphasis on R&D across the board in the country with the creation of 50,000 crores of National R&D Foundation, which out of the fund which has been set up, which will be kind of extending its the lendings and seeding over the next few years. The point I'm just trying to make is we need to strengthen ourselves. The direction is being set, and we do hope that the way to go forward is what we are talking about now. All right, he did talk about saying we have missed the bus several times, but that we are not going to miss it anymore. Then he listed out a half a dozen areas where the things are happening in the right manner or where they are under correction. I am optimistic that going forward, that we would see that irrespective of what a country might be kind of trying to settle its course, not just because it is trade deficit, but because somebody's ego has been pricked, we have not involved a person or a leader in some kind of negotiations, or we continue to pivot towards Russia. Now pivoting towards China, Veena talked about it a little while ago, is something which is going to rise, Mr. Trump, much more than our going towards the
All
kind
right.
of our
Let me bring in
of
Gautam
our
also into this now.
relationship with
All right. Let me also bring in Gautam, sir. We have a paucity of time. Gautam,